All right, welcome back. We're going to continue through the 4 stratagems that everyone has access to. This time we're going to talk about Go to Ground. This is actually a stratagem that basically existed in the Guard Codex in the past, but generic that everyone has access to, with a minor change to it. So we'll go over that. So to start with, this can be used in your opponent's shooting phase only. In addition, though, it is after the unit is targeted. So, again, depending on what edition and where you're looking for the old guard stratagem, add a few different wordings. For this one that everyone has access to, it's after your unit is selected as a target for the shooting attack. Then, when they're the thing that you're targeting effectively is your infantry, and it specifically calls out it has to be infantry. So you can't use Go to Ground on a monster or cavalry. So it protects your infantry unit. The result is phase. So it's not just the unit that's shooting at it, but it's for the whole rest of the phase. All models in that unit gain a 6+ invulnerable save. That's pretty big. And then also gain the benefit of cover. As a reminder, benefit of cover doesn't stack. So if they already had it, because they're effectively just gaining the invul. But depending on the units you're playing, guard being an example, but also there are other things like grots and stuff like that that, depending on the opponent's AP, even with the benefit of cover, may get no save. But now you can give them the 6+ invulnerable and have a chance at saving some of those models in order to stay on the objective or things like that. All right. The next one is in the similar vein. It is called SmokeScreen. It is also in the shooting phase, also after unit is selected as a target. This is restricted not to infantry, but to units that have the smoke keyword. And then until the end of the phase, all the models in that unit, most of the time it's going to be one model because a lot of vehicles have smoke, but there are some. So all the models until the phase, again, not just for the one shoot attack, but phase, gain the benefit of cover and the stealth rule. The stealth ability basically says that it's -1 to hit. And that's for the whole unit till the end of the phase. Just like the benefit of cover, stealth doesn't necessarily stack. If you already had stealth for something, that doesn't stack. Even if you didn't, if you had other -1s to hit, after all the modifiers are applied, will still cap the -1 to hit at -1, regardless of other abilities. Maybe you're at -2 or 3 by the time that all the modifiers are applied. It'll end up capping at -1. So be careful how you're using the standpoint.
For both of these, what's interesting is that because they're stratagems, you can only use them on one thing a turn.
Correct.
So you're going to have to pick and choose. You can't save both tanks with Smokescreen. You can't save both infantry squads with Go to Ground. It's going to be a pick and choose kind of affair.
Yep, so we won't get too deep into this. There are going to be some exceptions to that. We've already seen some data sheets spoiled that allow you to use a stratagem twice in a turn, things like that. However, even the one that we did see spoiled, it still talks about you can't target the same unit twice. So these aren't, having stealth twice doesn't necessarily. There are going to be other stratagems that we've talked about in previous videos and future videos, like grenade and things like that, where potentially you can't target the same unit with the same stratagem twice. But Smokescreen is a great example of, like you said, maybe you could protect 2 tanks, but that means that in order to have that strategy list, you'd have to take the special character with that rule, because that is not normally allowed.
Right, that makes sense. I don't have anything else on this one. It's pretty straightforward.
Yep, these are 2 pretty clear ones, but they're kind of both things that we want to keep in mind during our shooting phase. So, like we talked about with previous stratagems, we make sure we're paying attention during our opponent's turn, because since this lasts till the end of the phase, there may be times where they shoot at us with isn't super scary, But if we know that we want to smoke screen that unit from that other gun that's most likely coming to our vehicle, then we might as well do it now, right? But then in doing that, they could change their targets. So while these are fairly stratagems, I think the tactics behind using them and when to use them are going to create some interesting ideas and thought processes as you're playing.
Well, I have a crunchy question for you.
Sure.
So these are in the shooting phase, and in a previous video we talked about Overwatch. So
Mhm.
if you're moving and they Overwatch at the end of your movement, your opponent is overwatching as if it was a shooting phase. So can you smoke screen or go to ground as if it were the shooting phase?
So that is something that is probably going to have to get clarified in FAQ. However, obviously it doesn't, because I think there's like three major categories we're going to see of things get eroded because they're broken, things get eroded because they're confusing, but maybe didn't need an errata, and then things that don't get erratas that we kind of need because they're confusing, but we never really get them because GW, thinks that they're self-explanatory. This one I think is likely to fall in that unless enough people ask the question, send emails to GW. I think this falls into that. GW doesn't clarify it, so your tournament organizer is likely the one that's going to clarify this. As far as I'm concerned, my initial reaction is based upon the wording. It sounds to me like it's not in your opponent's shooting phase; it's in your movement phase or whatever. So I would say probably not. However, attack could make the argument. For the most part, I'm going to lean towards no. And I say that mostly because I don't even know that it's a smart use of the command point. Stealth, for example, the -1 to hit doesn't apply to Overwatch because it's sixes. There's a few other things about that too. But do you really need a 6+ invul when they're only hitting on sixes? Things like that. Is regardless of the
Yeah,
tactics,
it
I
it
don't think are super there.
I
The
know.
hard answer to the question is I don't think that's how it's intended, the way it's worded currently.
Oh, I don't think it's intended that way. I'm just thinking of an edge case where it seems technically possible. If you argue
It,
that
it
even during your turn, if an opponent interrupts to shoot with Overwatch, it's still an opponent's shooting phase. I don't know.
yeah,
I
the
don't think it's
argument,
important, but it does. It
yeah,
could use
the
some
argument could
clarification.
be made, but until GW says that yes, that's intended to use that way, um, as an organizer, I'm going to say and suggest to other organizers that the answer is no to that, because we've seen as if phase stuff cause issues in the past, and I would like to just avoid a lot of that. So,
I agree, but that's also why I'm bringing it up.
yep.
Okay. Anything else on this one?
Nope. I think we're good on these. We'll continue with some more in the next video.